What's up, everybody? This is Roger with the Working Tradesman. So I actually wanted to reshoot a video that I put out not too long ago. The last video I did was very bad. It was very scrambled and ranty, and I couldn't get my point across. So I wanted to redo it because I do feel that it's an important topic, an important subject for anybody that this question has been popping into their mind. And that video was, should you become a plumber, right? Should you be a plumber? Currently, it is 2024 going into 2025. And of course, I'm going to say that it's a good move. And obviously, I'm going to be biased because I've been a plumber for the past 17 going on 18 years. Plumbing has changed my life, has changed the life of a lot of people near to me. So I see more benefits, more pros than cons with plumbing. But I will like to put it out there and give my reasoning for why I do think plumbing is a good trade, that anybody that wants to get into it or is looking to a possible career path, why I think it would be a good move. So the main things that I'm going to be going over is things that I feel people would mostly be worried about, which is pay. Pay is one thing. Job security is another. Ease of getting into the trade. And I mean, longevity is still the same thing as job security, right? But I mean, kind of. But yeah, pretty much those things, right? So first, I'll go over longevity. Longevity in the trade is going to be there for, I don't see a future where plumbing gets replaced by any sort of automation. Is that the right word? Automation. Like when robots and stuff start taking your job, right? Or like how you see self-checkouts are replacing people or people that used to check you out. I don't see that really happening with plumbing, just because it's, once you get into the skill of plumbing and what you have to do, there's so many little scenarios that change your job, change the scope of work, that there's not really ways to account for all that stuff without doing it like on the fly or working on something and then a bigger issue pops up or a different issue pops up. So I don't see a case where something is going to be able to replace plumbers for a very long time. They are coming out with better materials, better fixtures, better parts that don't break, that don't leak as easily, that don't clog as easily. So there always will be that whenever there's advancement in technology. Like the service people that work on that stuff will get less work, but I don't think it'll ever get to the point where we have too many plumbers and not enough work that needs to get done, right? Plumbing is always used, right? Drains always clog, pipes always leak, equipment breaks down, fixtures start to have a problem. Everything has a lifespan on it. And whenever that lifespan is over, somebody needs to come in to fix, replace, whatever. And that's why if you want to get into a career that you know that you're going to be able to be in that career for many, many years, or I mean, for the rest of until you retire, then I think plumbing is definitely a smart move. And I should clarify, I'm specifically talking about plumbing service plumbing. Service plumbing is different from new construction, from guys that do remodels, from pipe fitters, and all. The plumbing trade has so many like little subsets to it where there's so many different forms of that type of work that you can do. And I'm specifically talking about service plumbing, doing house calls, repairing fixtures or plumbing that's leaking, breaking, clogging. All that stuff is what I'm pretty much talking about. I know that the other trade, the other subsets of plumbing are great. You could be a union pipe fitter, you can do all that stuff. I just don't have much experience with it. So the only thing that I could speak about is service plumbing. All right. And another thing after that I would say is pay, right? Pay is another thing that's very important. That's probably like the most important thing. Whenever I speak to people or I speak to young kids that are thinking about getting into the plumbing trade, one thing that they always talk about is the pay. It's like, how much does it pay? How much can you make? And this is where it can get very tricky, because I have an idea of how much service plumbers can make. But that is very dependent on like what state you live in, what city you live in, even as far as like what counties you're in. Because for example, I'm in Riverside County and we're not too far from LA County. We're about a 2-hour drive from LA. And the pricing for services where I'm at compared to LA is very different. Like here, things are quite more expensive than the same services that you get done in LA. I don't know why. The only reason I could think of that is maybe competition over there makes it cheaper, or I don't know, but the pricing here is a bit different. So the pay thing could vary, right? Depending on where you're at. I've done some guest speaking over at different shops, going over kind of like mostly sales, plumbing sales and service and stuff. And when I've talked to some of these other shops in different areas, still in California, but I've talked to some other shops before, and when I talk about the amount of money that some of my technicians made, some of the type of money that I made when I was a tech, a lot of these guys can't believe it. Like, they don't think it can be done. And I don't want to have the mindset of, well, if you can't do it, then that's just on you. A lot of it is that, but I also have to take into consideration that maybe the area that they're at, maybe you're not able to charge as much, or the work's not valued at that amount. So the pay thing is different. See, I'm trying not to get ranty because my videos can get long. So I will give you like a basic range, right? Specific to my area, specific to the shops that I have ran. I've had guys that have made $40,000 a year, and those guys were not, the greatest techs, the greatest plumbers. And then I've also had at that same shop, I've had guys making over 200,000. So the amount that you can get paid really depends on the person. As crappy of an answer that is, because some people want a straight answer of how much they can make. In service plumbing, depends on the company, but most of them you get paid based off performance. And performance pay can depend on how good you're doing. And some guys just have it. Some guys are really good, some guys are not that good, and some guys just don't get better. And those guys don't end up making that much money. So it really does depend. And the time that you the amount of time that you're working for that company doesn't always dictate the pay. Because I've had older guys that have been with the company for 10 years that make way less money than a guy that's only been with the company for 4 years. It really, like I said, performance pays. That's usually how most service plumbing companies pay their plumbers. So the pay can vary, but the opportunity is there. And then for the next thing would be job security. I personally believe that job security is pretty high in plumbing, in service plumbing, just because once you've learned the skill of plumbing, once you've gotten it down and you know how to do the job. Because there's a big difference between plumbers that know how to do a job and then plumbers that know how to bid a job, land a job, also do that job, or manage guys to do that job. That's a big difference. But once you at least have learned the skill of doing certain jobs, you're good at specializing in sewer lines, or you're really good at doing repipes, whatever it is. Once you learn that skill, even if for some reason you don't end up working out at the company that you're at, that skill, you carry that skill with you anywhere you go. So once you have the plumbing skill down and you've learned the trade pretty well, you can always learn more, and nobody knows everything, and there's always an opportunity to learn more. But once you've got like a base down, finding another job at another shop is not that difficult. And that's why this also goes back to the longevity thing. Plumbing companies are always looking for good plumbers. They're always looking for good plumbers. We constantly have a now hiring sign for our company, just because we are always looking for good plumbers. And we don't get a ton of plumbers applying because, usually guys are pretty, in my area at least, usually guys are pretty happy where they're working. We have pretty good companies in my area. So guys don't really jump around from place to place, from shop to shop. But when they do, you also can tend to get a reputation as a plumber. When you go to certain supply houses or you go buy parts, you're like, oh, this is Bob with so-and-so company. Oh, Bob with so-and-so company, he's always buying these type of parts. Oh, he's always buying this material. Oh, we heard he's a pretty good plumber. And then when Bob from so-and-so company starts applying somewhere else, it's like, oh, we know him. Oh, we've heard of him. Oh, we heard he's pretty good. So you kind of tend to get a reputation in service plumbing that you can carry with you when you apply somewhere else or you go work somewhere else. Bad reputation can carry over as well. So this can be like a double-edged sword. But either way, the job security, if you're a good plumber, is pretty good. Job security, you're pretty safe if you learn the plumbing trade. And the last thing that I'll go over is ease of, what would you call it? Like getting hired easily. It's ease of entry, or I don't know. Pretty much how easily you can get started in the plumbing trade. This is another thing that I think is beneficial. Is from my experience, service plumbing is a trade where you can usually get hired without any experience. It may not be super quick. may not happen right away, but if you're persistent and you keep applying, and you're open and willing to learn, and you don't have a lot of restrictions, or you're very flexible with pay, time, all that stuff, then you can get the opportunity to get hired. And once you get hired, that's when you can get trained. I know that we hire a lot of guys with no experience, people that look like they're ambitious, or guys that really want to get into the trade, and they want to be in the trade for a long time. There's some guys who sometimes will apply, and they kind of just need a job for a few years, and they're trying to, they heard plumbers make good money, so they want to be a plumber. Though, if you say that, like, you're probably not going to get hired. So guys that truly want to be in the trade, and they're conveying that to the person that's interviewing them, as long as you have a good personality and you have a good attitude, and like I said, all the other things, like you're flexible and stuff, you have the opportunity to get hired. You're not going to get paid a lot, right? You don't get paid a lot as an entry level guy. You at least get the opportunity to get in, and once you're in, that's when you start trying to learn as much as you can, do as much as you can, be as good of a helper as you can, and then eventually you start getting moved up. And once you've learned that skill, once you've learned, or you become an apprentice and you have some skill, then that's when things get a lot easier for you. And like I said, jumping around to other companies or stuff, once you learn that trade, once you learn that skill, it's very easy to do. Getting your foot in the door, it's not instant, it's not super easy, but I still think it's the barrier to entry. That's what I was trying to say. Barrier to entry into the trade is fairly simple. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, plumbing to me, like I said, is if you don't know what you want to do, and you're not really a type of person that wants to go to college or wants to go to school, because I know I was like that. I was told by everybody, you need to go to college. Oh, you have to get a degree, or else you're not going to do well. And that always weighed heavy on my mind. My dad was a plumber, and he is a plumber, and he made good money, but it wasn't like mind-blowing money. It was okay. So I always like kind of wanted to do that just because my dad was a plumber. But I also was told, if you want to make good money, you have to go to school, you have to get a degree. And I knew that I hated school. I always couldn't stay awake in class. I wasn't the brightest person, so I did not want to go to school. And when I found service plumbing, which for some reason a lot of plumbers hate on service plumbing, my dad used to tell me, if you don't go to school, you're going to end up unclogging toilets, and you don't want to do that. And funny enough, now he unclogs toilets too. But service plumbing to me service plumbing was a way for me to escape that whole narrative of, you need to go to college, you need to make something out of your life, you need to do all this and that, follow these steps. I got lucky finding a trade where you just have to work hard, you have to have a good attitude, you have to be willing to put in the work, and it changed my life. So, but you have to like the trade, right? You have to enjoy what you do. I've always liked doing plumbing. I love working with my hands. I love figuring things out. It's always been fun for me. Even the stress of a job where something is flooding and the customer's freaking out, and you're like looking and trying to see what you do. Like during those jobs, it's hectic, but when you're done, you're like, man, that was crazy, but that was dope. Heck yeah, like we got this done, or we got that done, and customers freaking out, and we saved the day. It's just a good feeling. If you do get into the plumbing trade and you don't like it, and you're like, this is hard work, I don't like digging, I don't like what they're making me do, I don't think I'm gonna want to be a plumber, then it's not worth it. You gotta love what you do. You gotta like you gotta at least like what you do. And if you hate it or you don't enjoy it at all, then it's not gonna be worth it for you. And that's pretty much it, guys. Hopefully this video is better than the last one. If you have any questions, please write them in the comments. If you like the video, please like the video. If you enjoy the channel, if you got any value, please subscribe. Check out the rest of my videos. That's pretty much it, guys. Catch you in the next one. Thank you.